Welcome back to the Real Slim Fady Show. I'm your host, Fady Hawatma. The thing that I get asked all the time, especially I've been doing Clockwork since 2018. I talk to a lot of founders, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of young kids. Just this past week on Monday, I was talking to someone a couple days ago, and they're like, asking me all these questions. It was 7:30 in the morning. We're literally drinking coffee in the office, and this guy comes up and he's like, "Hey, I want to introduce myself. Where'd you come up with Clockwork? How'd you start doing it? What made you want to start doing it? You started at Boeing." Like grilling on him. I'm like, man, it's 7:30 in the morning, but like, whatever. And I go through it. And so people always ask me, like, if you were to start Clockwork tomorrow, what would you do differently? And I used to be like, oh, nothing. I love my journey. No, I would absolutely do a lot of things different if I started Clockwork tomorrow. And none of them are groundbreaking, right? Everyone who sold a company or scaled a company or did on it as some sort of a version of these things, but almost no first-time founder actually does any of that. And including me, when I started Clockwork, I made all these mistakes, and a lot of people made these mistakes with me. The first thing I would do if I started Clockwork again was hire a technical co-founder before I actually started the company. So if you didn't know, I'm a solo founder. Solo founder means it was just me starting the company by myself, going all in on Clockwork. For the longest time, I was looking for a technical co-founder. I was looking for a CTO, someone who knew how to develop and build software that was special. I talked to a ton of people. I couldn't find anyone that was like actually as passionate about what I was trying to do without wanting to take the whole thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to just get someone just to get someone. So I decided to be the entire psycho and go and hire a team out of Poland to be my engineers. I partnered with a couple of people here in Chicago that did that. And that was kind of it. And I was like, oh, I'll figure it out. So I started Clockwork without a technical co-founder. And that was one of the stupidest mistakes I've ever done. And every single person I talked to, right, they all said, go find a technical co-founder. You have to find a CTO. You look at Y Combinator. Y Combinator doesn't touch a company that doesn't have a CTO, and a CTO that's an actual badass, someone who knows how to build a product and build a market and build something that's super, super special from a technical perspective. And for me, I had a thesis that I trusted. I knew it. I was confident. I had a domain expertise from running all my finance stuff, and no one could touch it. And I figured if I just had a couple people to build what I wanted them to build, I could figure it out. That was the wrong call. Honestly, it was the wrong call. I want to be like, when I go look back, it was the wrong call because you can't really figure things out. The surface reason everybody tells you is why you need a technical co-founder is because you can't build the product yourself. That really wasn't my solution, right? I came up in finance. I've been in finance for a very long time, which in a venture-backed tech company is closer to engineering than it is to consulting. And I know how to do SQL, and I know I can read a code base. I could talk through architecture. I can be a product manager. So you need someone to actually write the code version of that advice was kind of like, nah, I'm good. Like, I don't necessarily need that because I know enough to be dangerous. And the real reason that you need a technical co-founder, and the reason I should have found one, isn't for the engineering hours. It's the second brain that doesn't operate the way that your brain does. The second brain is the person whose name is on the cap table, with you, right? The person who signed up for the same 15-year outcome that you signed up for and is thinking about the technical direction of the company with the same passion and intensity that you're thinking about the commercial direction of the company. That person is not getting paid, right? They know that they need to find money. They know they're in this with you. Employees, even the great ones, even the ones who care so deeply, even the ones with stock, are not playing the same game that you're playing as a founder. And so they are playing the next 3-year version of the game, not the 15 version of the game, not the I will go without paying myself version of the game. And that's not a comp. It's not a comp issue. It's not a cash issue. It's just a structural fact about how their life is organized because they don't want to be founders versus how your life is organized as a founder. I had a conversation when I was first starting Clockwork. They're like, well, what tech stack do you want to use? I was like, I don't really know. I know a few of them, but I was like, I don't know what tech stack to use. What do you guys recommend? They're like, well, if we're going to be doing a bunch of data, you should use this, you should use that, you shouldn't use this. And I had several conversations and I would Google it. And this is, of course, before ChatGPT. So I couldn't go and ask Claude or ChatGPT, like, hey, as a tech company that does financial planning and analysis, what code should I use? I just had to kind of figure it out. And I trusted the team to figure it out with me. I trusted the team out of Poland to figure out what the best way to use Clockwork in the tech stack that we had and how we should have done it. I didn't know anything about that. And that was one of those things where when I started Clockwork, I'm like, great, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But then we started scaling, started hiring engineers, and they're like, well, I don't know that code. And why are you using that code? That's kind of an old school code. And I'm like, shoot, if I had a technical co-founder, they could understand this. They could find the people that know how to use that coding language or whatever it may be. And so it was those kinds of decisions where I'm like, I don't know. I can't necessarily make a proper educated decision that's going to affect and impact the business as a whole moving forward. And, if I were doing this again, I would spend the first year before I incorporated trying to find the right one. I would skip legitimately every other first year activity. And I tried a lot to find a technical co-founder, but I wouldn't have incorporated without one. And I would not write a pitch deck. I would not write my product roadmap that my dog ate. I would not raise money. I would not hire anyone. I would not build an MVP about anything. It literally would not do anything besides finding my technical co-founder. That is the only biggest thing that I wish I did. Because if I did, Clockwork could have been and would have been completely different. Sometimes people will talk about their teams, but like finding the second brain is and would have been the single biggest thing that I would do different if I started Clockwork tomorrow. The second one, and this is extremely important, would have had probably a similar impact, is I would have focused on marketing first. The way I built Clockwork was heads down on the product for years, and marketing and distribution and all that was an afterthought once we had something to show. And this is what an engineering brain does when no one stops it. Engineering brain assumes the product is the artifact that does the work, and that marketing exists just to inform the world about something that's already finished after you're done working in the lab. But that's not how it works. To build it and they will come does not exist in the tech space. And I was hyper focused on the product because I was building it for myself. As a CFO, I needed a perfect product. As a founder, as a CEO, there is no such thing as a perfect product. And that's what I got wrong. And the order that I got was wrong. The version of this is I should have legitimately done the opposite. I should have spent the first year building an audience in addition to my clients and the people that I knew in the ecosystem and in the market, not just focusing on the product because I was obsessed with the product. That was always the biggest thing. That's why I bootstrapped Clockwork for 4 years, because I was obsessed about the product. And what that actually looks like in practice, right? I should have legitimately been on LinkedIn for years building my audience before I shipped the software, before I shipped the product and like, hey, this is the software I'm going to be building. Sign up for our wait list. Writing about a problem instead of being the CFO. Right? If I was doing that stuff back when I started Clockwork or back before I started Clockwork, that's the kind of stuff that I would have built an audience. The actual day-to-day pain of being the bottleneck for every single company, every single client that I had, telling the world about that would have been a major big deal. But now I do it after the fact as the CEO of Clockwork. It's good, but it doesn't hit the same. And if I had done that for 3 years, by the time the product was ready to ship, I'd have a list of thousands of founders, CFOs, operators, VPs who already trusted me on the topic because they knew it. Instead, I'm doing that backwards. I spent all the money, spent all the time, then I'm building the product or the trust in the market with that. So I would have flip-flopped it, and I wouldn't have been launching it into silence and trying to backfill the audience the way that I've been doing it now, testing all these things, doing a lot of the thought leadership after the fact. I would have been launching it into a room where everyone's already been like, yeah, we've been waiting for this. You've been telling us about this We're waiting on it. Let's try it. Let me see it. And so the cost of doing it the other way, the way that I actually did it, is that you spend your launch year proving you exist instead of actually selling. So the first year of Clockwork being commercially available was a year of explaining what the heck Clockwork was, why we did it, why anyone should care. Every demo started with the backstory. This is who I am. I'm a Fady, a founder, CEO, blah, blah, blah. I was a former CFO. I built Clockwork as a solution that I needed. Every cold email, same thing, building the credibility, building the story. Every conference, I was the new person. I had to reintroduce myself to every single group. And before I even opened my mouth about Clockwork, why was I there? What is the reason that I should even be in that room? And if I had done the marketing first, the year one selling motion would have been a list of people that knew about me, that knew Clockwork, that knew what I was building. And it wouldn't have been a sales pitch. It would have been just a continuation of the relationship. Like, hey, we've been talking about this. You know about this. We've been doing it for a long time. Here's the actual commercial product. Our first customer for Clockwork came because of that. I am a member of Soho House. I was at Soho House, Chicago, walking down, saw two of my friends. They started their company. We were catching up and they're like, well, what are you working on? I told them what I'm working on. They're like, wait, we need that. That's how we landed Clockwork's first customer, was literally walking into the area at Soho House. That was it. That felt so awesome because they knew it. They were like, hey, here's, and I think I sold the first license for like $500 for a lifetime subscription, something crazy, just to see if someone would actually pay us for what we built. And that was it. That was the first dollar that Clockwork made, was walking through the halls and seeing one of my friends at Soho House. The third thing I would change is I would not have built such a good product. And that's kind of weird to say. It sounds like a flex if you don't genuinely understand it. I overbuilt Clockwork. Clockwork is a very, very overbuilt platform. For years, I'm a finance person who happens to be able to build, and I built. The thing that I could not control was the market. The market did not get better. I kept telling myself and telling my team, the product of getting better is the one thing that it'll break the dam. We're going to educate the market. The market's finally going to catch up to us. The market, they're finally going to be ready for a solution that's not built on spreadsheets. The same thing that I was saying from 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 22. It was never changing. It never changed until like last year. Maybe last year. The dams break on go to market, but not on product quality. In almost every B2B SaaS category I can think of, the companies that own the categories don't own them because their product was meaningfully better. HubSpot owns the CRM space. I hate HubSpot. We use HubSpot and I hate it. I cannot wait to get rid of it, but they own the space because it's just who everyone uses when you're a startup. Their product was good enough, but everyone knew them. Everyone has been using them. So the distribution did the actual work of moving them past the rest of the field. That kind of stuff, that's what changes. That's why Clockwork took so long to actually get some real firmness in the market. So the version of Clockwork that the market would have bought in 2020 was not very different from the version I had in 2022, 2023, 2024. The difference between those two versions was a lot of polish, a lot of tweaking, like this button should go here, this accuracy here. It has to be 99% accurate, not 95% accurate. It had to be this much better than this much. It didn't have to be that good. And they always say one of the sayings is, if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you waited too long. I was way, way, way too long. I was not embarrassed by my fifth product. I was still embarrassed by my fifth product and I wouldn't allow them to ship it. So when I first shipped Clockwork into the market, I was happy with it, which was horrible. As a founder and CEO, you should not be happy with the first version you ship in the market. As a CFO, I was happy with it, but I waited too long. I built out a product that should not have been so good when we did launch. Then we couldn't keep up. We tried to scale it. We tried to build the product. We tried to build the features. The team wasn't ready. We didn't know all the stuff and how quickly things would adjust or how quickly the market would adjust or anything like that. So then we were ahead of the 8 ball. Then all of a sudden we were behind the 8 ball. And so the features that moved the deals were a small number of them. And when I look back and I look at the functionality and the features that cost millions of dollars, they haven't provided the millions of dollars yet. They will eventually when the market gets there and the customers get there and everyone kind of builds their sophistication. But we could have built them in 3 months once we had the paying customers for them, rather than building for 2, 3, 4, 5 years for all this product development that I knew the market should have been asking for, should be doing. But that was just kind of like, well, I'm hoping they'll get there. I'm hoping they'll understand it, but they didn't understand it. And they still, bit by bit, the market gets better and better. They understand more of the capabilities. They understand more of the things that they're doing, but Clockwork's been there for 4 years. Literally just today, I had a sales call and the guy was like, I wish I knew about this. Where has this been? I've been asking for this for so long. Cool thing is, we signed the deal literally on the very first call that I spoke to him, but it's one of those things where it's bittersweet. And when you actually go about that, building Clockwork was comfortable for me. I knew how to build. I know how to build. I know how to build software. I know how to build operations. I know how to build a company internally, inside out. Selling was what I sucked at. Marketing was what I sucked at. So I wanted to focus on the stuff that I was good at. The founder focus was what I was good at. That was what I was best at. And I didn't know much about sales. I didn't know much about marketing. And that's not what I wanted to do. Your hands want to do what you're good at, not what the company needs. Company grows on what they're not good at. So I literally had to go and find people that could help me sell, that could help me market, that could help me do all the stuff that I genuinely sucked at for a very, very long time. One of the things that was one of the funniest stories, a customer was always making fun of the balance sheet forecast. As a CFO, as a former CFO, outsourced CFO, balance sheet forecasts are one of the most useless things for a company unless you need to take them to the bank and get a bunch of stuff done there. I kept refusing to build a balance sheet forecast in Clockwork. And I'm like, you don't need it. You don't need it. And enough people kept being like, oh my gosh, if you had it. Da, da, da. And I was like, all right, let's go. And we took 6 months to build the balance sheet forecast. It cost us a lot of money. I had my entire engineering team focused on it. Cost a ton of money. We haven't closed a deal literally since, because of only the balance sheet forecast. It's always one of those nice things. People are like, oh, you have it. Great. It's never been oh, you have a balance sheet forecast. Here's my money. It's all the other stuff that we had on top of it. And so it's kind of one of those things where I look at it and I'm like, there were so many trade-offs that we could have made and we should have made. And now I try and be better about it. But that's genuinely one of the biggest things, because building is easy. Building the product for me is easy. And there's genuinely no one in this industry that can build a financial planning product better than I can. But I should have done a better job building all the other stuff instead of, and maybe despite the product. The third lesson, reducing it to its actual shape, the third lesson really is about me. It's not necessarily about Clockwork. Building the product was genuinely easy for me, and it still is easy for me. I've always said I wrote like a 12-page product roadmap, and we've built maybe 1 page of it. I know what the product's going to look like and the market's going to eventually get there. I know that. And I still know that. Intellectually, the whole time I've known that. And the problem was I treated it as a fact about the company instead of it as a fact about me. When I look at the company and say we need to keep building because the product needs to get better, I was telling myself about the company that made my own time allocation seem like I was doing something good, that I was building something special, that it was good leadership. Of course, I'm on the product roadmap. I'm doing all that kind of stuff when it needs work, and I'm doing all the architecture and making sure that UX, UI is all set up. And I'm interviewing the engineering team, interviewing engineers, interviewing product, doing all that kind of stuff. But all those were good, but they were also a description of a founder who was spending hours on the wrong stuff, on the stuff that felt safe. And so instead of spending my time on things that the company actually needed, distribution, marketing, sales, I was stuck inside and I should have been outside. So if you're a founder, if you're a team member, if you're an employee, if you're doing anything, and a lot of hours that you're spending are what you're best at, you should probably change that. You're probably avoiding the thing that the company actually needs you to do the most. You're probably avoiding what the people around you need you to do the most. So look at where your hours go. The hours that are feeling safe, you probably aren't growing that much. You're personally not growing that much. The company is not growing that much. For you, it may be completely different. And so when I look at it, I can sit and build a product roadmap. I can build a product spec. But when I get onto a sales call, I used to freeze. I used to suck. I used to just product dump all these things. I've done this and we're doing this and we're doing this and we're so great. And our product does all this stuff. By the end of the call, the person's like, this product is the best thing in the world. I have no idea how to buy it. I have no idea how to use it. I have no idea if it is going to be good for me, but this product is the best thing in the world. That's what I sucked at. And so I had to genuinely spend years. I found some of the best sales advisors ever, and I had them beat me down into learning how to actually sell Clockwork. But if I had done that at the beginning, Clockwork would have had a very, very different sell. And so the other part of that is Clockwork was too early. It still is too early. And it's a very, very catastrophic problem if you can't outlast the wait, because it doesn't matter how much time you build on the product. Part of the reason that I spent so much time building the product is because I had the time to build it. It's not like the market was catching up. It's not like we had a ton of competitors. It's not like a lot of people were jumping into the ring and a lot of money and all this kinds of stuff. It wasn't that sexy. Our market, when we started Clockwork in 2018, was $500 million. Now it's 50 billion and it's growing every single day. But it took a long time. For the first few years, it was 500 million, then 750 million, then a billion. Then it jumped to 5, then it jumped to 10, then it just been kind of exponential since then. So the market finally caught up, but that was an expensive lesson to be learned. When you're too early, it's a very expensive lesson. And a lot of times your timing is everything in life. And I started Clockwork when AI in finance was technically impossible and commercially absurd. People thought I was an insane person when I would go to them and I would say AI powered FP&A. They're like, what the hell are you talking about? Investors told me I was too early. Customers told me they didn't understand it. The thing that they were wrong about was the time. It's not that they were wrong that Clockwork was the wrong bet. It's not that the product wasn't working the way that it should work. It's just the time. And for me, that was a huge lesson. The lesson is being too early is a real category of a mistake. Like, oh, you're a visionary. People always talk about, oh, you're a visionary. I used to think that was cool. I used to be like, oh, hell yeah, I'm a visionary. Now I'm like, yeah, I'm a fucking idiot. I was too early building my company and I was too stubborn to give up on it because I knew that eventually the world will catch up. I knew it. But that's a very, very expensive lesson to learn. I talk about how I literally went broke building Clockwork. I took loans from my dad. I took loans from my best friend. I sold my condo. I sold my car. I gave up everything that I had in my life as a person in his early 30s to build a company, a product, a software that was way too early. Most companies that were too early, they died. They died in obscurity. The only people left alive to talk about being too early are the ones who survived long enough for the market to catch up. I knew Clockwork was the future and I wasn't going to give it up no matter what. And my no matter what meant sacrificing an absolute boatload. So when someone tells you that they were too early, what they're actually telling you is they happen to last long enough for the market and customers and prospects to catch up to what they believed. That's a survival story dressed up as a vision story. The vision is real. You have to be a visionary to be where the puck is going. But the survival part is what actually made them right. Because if you're a founder, you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to do stuff, you have to go where the puck is going. Absolutely. Sometimes you get there and you wait for the puck to get there for 5 years, 10 years. Can you actually wait that long? That was a big thing that I didn't know about. I didn't think that I was going to have to wait that long, but I got fortunate that I was able to wait that long and be able to be as stubborn as I was. But it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing to be that early. If you're a year or 2 years and you have first mover advantage, as they say, that's something cool. But if you're 8 years early, like I was, that's not a good thing. And that was a big lesson for me to learn. And it's not a thing you should congratulate yourself on. For me, I used to be hype on it. I used to think I was cool. Now I'm like, fuck, I missed real big on that. And I burnt a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of resources, a lot of my patience, a lot of my structure, a lot of my emotions being so early. And the two things you need if you're going to bet on something, an early thesis, and have a chance of being right on the side of the history when the market catches up, are perseverance and confidence. The perseverance to wait 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years for the market to come to you, and the confidence to keep going while the market is telling you you're wrong, you're delusional. If you don't have those two things, your visionary, your early thesis does not matter. It's literally useless. You'll run out of cash or you'll run out of confidence before the market will show up. So you'll be one of the 100 companies that had the right idea. One of those founders like, oh, I thought about that. I was there. I had that idea, but they didn't survive to be in the history book. So if you do those two things, then yes, being early is one of the most rewarded positions a founder can be in. But the reward isn't because you saw something nobody else saw. The reward is because you saw something else nobody else saw, and you had the structure or ability to outlast everyone else who saw the same thing. So the honest version of we were too early is the market caught up before we ran out of money. That's literally it. And anybody that tells you differently, they're full of shit. And so for me, I never wanted to give up Clockwork. And the only time that I wanted to give up Clockwork was when we were almost there, right before something huge happened. I'm like, man, this is just taking too long. And you see it. So when I look back and I name the 5 things that I would do differently, genuinely, every one of them rolls up to the same thing, right? The technical co-founder you didn't hire, the marketing you skipped, the overbuilt product, the early thesis that you bet on. None of it matters if sales are growing. All of it kills you if sales aren't growing. So when you look at what sales are growing actually means, because it's not just sales are growing. I don't mean revenue numbers going up in a chart. I mean a real signal from the market that what you are building is worth buying. Market product fit. That's the difference. So for some companies, that's signed contract. For some companies, it's qualified pipeline. Other companies, it's customer expansion. It's all what's important to the business. But the point is the signal is there. Real outsiders with real money, real budgets, choosing to put real dollars behind what you built out of thin air. And if the answer is yes, then absolutely. Like everything else in the company can be wrong, but you'll still be able to fix it. You'll still have time. You'll still have runway. And if the answer is no, then everything else in the company can be right and you will still die. So sales is the cure because sales is the proof. Everything else is opinion until the market signs the contract. And that's the key thing that I took so long because I refused to believe it with Clockwork. I wanted to build the best product, but the best product gets bought. The best product does not get built. So if you're a founder listening to this and you're stuck on one of those 5 things, fix sales. If you're trying to start a company and you're frustrated, fix sales. Find sales, and sales cures all. Every other fix is a sub fix. That was the Real Slim Fady Show. I'm your host, Fady Hawatma, and we will catch you next time.